What's going on, guys? Bengal here, and as you can see to my, my left, I think this is, we got a special guest on the channel. You know, a long time coming. I'm joined today by Bert Kollmann. How are you?
Oh, thanks, Panther. I appreciate that.
exactly. So I've been a big fan of Bert's for a while now. I've been following his stuff for at least a couple weeks, and we were talking about recording a mock draft, and it finally came together. We're doing 2 rounds, so we get to talk about some maybe more underrated players in the draft that you guys haven't heard about getting any first round love. So it should be a lot of fun. How are you?
I'm doing great. Ready to mock draft. It's kind of a good primer for my own mock draft special coming out in a couple weeks. I haven't done too many this year, like actual mock drafts, so I'm excited to see how the board falls.
Yeah, link in description for that, by the way. We are going to alternate picks. I'm going to have the even numbers, and Brett's going to have the odd numbers. I actually heard an interesting fact about you recently. You were related to Ron Jaworski? Is that why they call you Jaws?
Oh, God. So
all right.
What he's talking about is I put the Jaws theme on a video on Tevin Jenkins that I put out a couple weeks ago. Not really expecting that video to do well, by the way. Like I put the Jaws theme in there just because for the intro I thought it would make just the video better, which it did. And then that ended up getting it demonetized, of course. And then that video ended up becoming the most viewed video ever on my channel and cost me quite a lot of money.
Wait, that's been out for like two weeks now. Does it have like 700,000 views or something?
Yeah.
in the ballpark?
Yeah, so that's I don't know, $6,000-7,000
on an O lineman too.
I mean, it made it better, but if I knew that was gonna happen, maybe I wouldn't have done that.
It was a good video. You guys should definitely check that out. If you're not already subscribed to Brett, definitely be sure to subscribe to him for the best football breakdowns on the platform. So, it's high praise. So, let's go ahead and get into this. I don't know why I have the IOL tab pulled up. That's not going to be the number 1 overall pick. Plain and simple, we're going to start with Trevor Lawrence. Not too much of a breakdown required. It's just what is going to happen. I'm pretty confident in that at this point. I don't want to, tell any tales out of school there, but I think there's a chance Trevor Lawrence could go at number 1 overall.
Yeah. I mean, they've given him the playbook already, so it's about as big an indicator as you can get that they've already made their decision.
It's a smokescreen. Taking Trey Lance.
It's a fake playbook. So I'm at number 2, and I'm going to go, well, it used to be consensus until it wasn't, and now the consensus is the other way, but I'm actually going to go with Justin Fields at number 2, who is my QB2. And to be honest, I don't really have a big difference between him and Trevor Lawrence, like in terms of grades. They do different things well. They have a few different, I don't even want to call them flaws, hang-ups, I guess you can say. Like, I think Trevor Lawrence is a little bit, I don't want to say safe or conservative or anything like that, but I think if number 1 isn't there, he won't try to hang onto a sinking ship for as long as Justin Fields will. Like, Justin Fields plays a lot like, again, this is purely on field, but it plays a lot like Deshaun Watson when Deshaun Watson was early in the league, where it's
I love the on-field disclaimer.
I'll use Russell Wilson. That's an easier comparison, where it's like, they would literally just sit there and be like, look, I know it's going to be open. I'll buy time. Like, he's almost aggressive to a fault sometimes. And people say like, oh, well, he's not getting off his first read. He can't read defenses. And it's like, no, he can read defenses. He just believes in himself so much that he can buy time and wait for that just absolutely killer strike down the field to come open, that sometimes you're like, just move on, like, save your body. You saw that in the Indiana game, where it's like, I don't think it wasn't that he wasn't seeing the field. I think he was just being aggressive to a fault against a top 15 defense. He wanted to plant his flag. And so he reads defenses just fine. He's absolutely killer accurate. I want him to dial down the dangerous aggression a little bit. But again, that was a Deshaun and a Russell Wilson thing earlier in their careers, and they kind of worked it out. And I think Justin Fields will as well. If he goes to the Niners in the actual draft, I think he'll end up having the best career out of any quarterback in this class, straight up.
Yeah, I think also with Justin Fields, talking about like maybe being a little bit too aggressive and waiting for things to get open, I think that's also a construct of the Ohio State offense where there were a lot of vertical routes that take a long time to get open. And if he thinks, okay, Garrett Wilson, who's going to be a first-round pick next year, is going to get open because he's a better player. Chris Olave, who's going to be a top 5 receiver off the board probably next year, is going to get open. Like, why not wait? But then that, lets him sit in the pocket a little bit too long sometimes. Then he's a tick late at times. But really, really good player. I think it's tough to go wrong with a lot of these quarterbacks long term. I don't think we've seen a draft in a while where you have, QBs with top 7 to 10 potential in the same draft class, and there are multiple of them depending on how you feel about Trey Lance. But yeah, Justin Fields to the Jets, don't mind it at all. We'll have to see what Robert Saleh does out there. And then that leaves me at number 3. I'm going to go Zach Wilson then, because Zach Wilson arguably has the highest ceiling of any quarterback in this class. He's got a big-time arm, and based on how fluid he is mechanically and just how easily the ball flies out of his hand, you got to love his arm talent. I mean, it's right up there with anyone. And, combining with Kyle Shanahan in that offense with that weapon, or a group of weaponry, we can say, I think Zach Wilson would have a tremendous career in San Francisco. It's not Trey Lance because he's just not quite as good to me. And it's not Mac Jones because he's definitely not as good to me.
Yeah, the Mac Jones thing, again, this is nothing against Mac Jones. I actually like Mac Jones better.
I think he's a fine player.
He's good. He's legitimately good, and I like him better than
anything
Tua.
On these top guys.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is we're comparing a good prospect to 3 great ones, and 2 potentially phenomenal ones. It's if I was gonna do a tier list, it would be Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields in their own tier, kind of a sort of in between tier of just Zach Wilson, and then Mac Jones and Trey Lance in a third tier.
Definitely fair.
Lance, he's got ball placement issues that kind of concern me a lot. Especially anything after 10 yards is kind of gross when you compare it to every other top quarterback prospect in the last 8 or 9 years.
Mechanically, he had an issue with overstriding that I think led to him sailing some balls, but obviously it's a pro day. It's not as important as film or nearly even close, but he wasn't overstriding from what I could tell at his pro day. So if he took this past year to clean up some mechanical issues to upgrade his accuracy, I'm a big fan of that.
And he has been working with Quincy Avery, who's really big on being a rotational passer and using hips and core to generate a lot of force, whereas with overstriding, sometimes you'll see guys really open up because they want to generate stuff through the quads, and then really push off and everything like that, where Quincy's approach, it's look, keep everything tight, keep everything under control, tight front elbow, use the core and the hips as a whip. And I think if he's kind of condensing everything a little bit, it might not just help with release time, but accuracy as well. Only time will tell, but we can only go off what we've seen so far. And so I will not be taking Trey Lance at 4. I'm actually going to take, oh man, this one's actually tough, because I want to take either Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts here. I don't want to do a quarterback. Mainly because I just don't believe that the other quarterbacks in this class are worth a top 4 pick. I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts because he's the more rare option. If I really want to get another wide receiver, because Julio's 32, Russell Gage I think only has 1 more year left on his deal. Calvin's already going to be, by the end of the first 5 years of his rookie deal, he's already going to be 28. So it's I do want to get some youth in there. Calvin's going to be at the very beginning of his prime. Julio's at the very end of his prime. I want to get kind of a young buck in there at receiver, but I don't necessarily need to do that at 4 in this receiver class. Kyle Pitts is somebody that is extraordinarily rare, can play tight end or receiver, so I'm going to go with him.
Yeah, and he's also probably, based on just playing in line, he's a better win now fit for a team that probably is trying to win now with aging Julio and certainly aging Matt Ryan, and they restructured that in a way that they can kind of be let off the hook in a couple years and get rid of Matt Ryan, or he can retire or whatever. But who's a better fit for the Falcons to win now and it's a player like Kyle Pitts that can be on the field every single play. Not that Jamar Chase wouldn't, but you already have Julio. You already have Calvin Ridley. You don't really need to be stressed to take a third receiver, even though they do run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. I think Kyle Pitts is an excellent choice at number 4. And I'm not going to overcomplicate things at number 5 either. I'm going to go Penei Sewell to the Bengals. You just got to protect Joe Burrow. I know Jamar Chase is on the board. I think it's tempting to reunite Burrow and Chase. I really do. But I like T. Higgins. I like Tyler Boyd in the slot. You know, I like Auden Tate as a jump ball receiver. And I think they lack protection. Their offensive line's bad. I don't believe in Riley Reef. I don't know why people are talking about that addition like it's anything to write home about. And then you don't have to even feel pressed to play Penei Sewell at tackle right away. You can move him inside the left guard, or you can move Jonah Williams over, who is kind of a natural fit over there. Or you can start Riley Reef and Williams and Sewell. I just think it's the best player available for the future of this team. And once again, in a really good receiver class, I don't really want to feel pressure to take a receiver at number 5. Not that Jamar Chase isn't worth taking there, because I think he is, but I think Sewell has the potential to be the best offensive lineman in the class long term, even if I think Rashawn Slater's a little bit better right now. I think Sewell is kind of a no-brainer pick at 5 for the Bengals.
And I kind of think if Sewell's at guard year 1, that's actually better for him, because being at guard, you learn to use your hands pretty quickly. Like, you can't survive at guard unless you have good hands. Like, some tackles can rely on just like pure explosiveness or length to get the job done. Like, at guard, everything happens so much quicker. So you have to have great hand placement. You have to be able to fit and refit constantly. You have to have a good anchor. Like, I think it would actually be better for him long term developing at tackle to start at guard, like Jonathan Ogden did, like Laramie Tunsil did, like these other, you know, very, very highly regarded tackle prospects that played guard as rookies, and I think ended up being better tackles because of that. So I don't disagree with that at all. Which leaves pick 6 for me. I'm going to go Jamar Chase because, again, I have a higher grade on Mac Jones than I had Tua. I have a higher grade on Trey Lance than I had Tua. Not that I was down on Tua. That's just how good this quarterback class is, that there's like 5 guys that I have ahead against Tua's grade last year. But regardless of who's playing quarterback for them, they have to have weapons. Like, they have to build a supporting structure for a young quarterback that can work in the long term. That means getting Jamar Chase. Again, is Tua the long-term answer there? I have no idea yet, but I think any young quarterback there would struggle if they didn't have a superior supporting cast. So I'd rather just take the guy we got, give him as good a chance as possible, and if he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out. It's the same thing the Lions are going through right now with Daniel Jones. Give him as much help as you can, and if he doesn't work out, it's
Giants.
his own fault.
I see you reading the Lions instead of, you said Lions and Daniel Jones. As a Giants,
Giants.
I take exception to being classified with the Lions, even though they're just as bad right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're not much better.
Yeah, Giants fans are gonna come down my neck. You know what? Giants fans hate me because I'm realistic. They think they're gonna win the Super Bowl every year. Yeah, I'm a fake fan because I don't believe in Daniel Jones.
I tell you, there's a lot of Giants fans that hated Daniel Jones till the day he got drafted. And then they love Daniel Jones. And how dare you ever question their love for Daniel Jones?
Oh, dude, after year 1 when Daniel Jones was bad, I bet you feel stupid now for not loving the pick. I go, huh? I'm like, he was not good. But I'm left with an interesting decision at number 7. And this is kind of how would you fundamentally, mock the draft? And myself personally, I would take Trey Lance here if I were the Lions. You don't have to feel stressed to play him right away. You have Jared Goff, who's not good in my opinion, or we'll say not great. He's about a middling quarterback, getting paid like a great one. I would take Trey Lance and play him, under Jared Goff for a year or 2. And then after 2022, you can cut Jared Goff and save a lot of money. So I would love to take Trey Lance here. But the Lions seem committed to the goofball that is Jared Goff. And I don't know where to go from here, because I think Rashawn Slater is a good fit, because once again, you can play him at different spots on the line and probably have a lot of success. He's one of the smarter offensive linemen in the class. And also, he's probably the most technically sound. Love Rashawn Slater. He just doesn't get beat. And especially, it's tough not to go back to that Ohio State tape in 2019 and just see him completely dominate everybody, including Chase Young. So I like Rashawn Slater here as potentially being best player available. I like Jalen Waddle here. I think Jalen Waddle's the best receiver in the class. I think he has incredible route polish. I think he runs a versatile route tree. The only bad part about Jalen Waddle is you can talk about potential injury concern and lack of play time outside the slot. But I think Waddle has great feet to beat press when he does play on the outside. And I think he's underrated as a jump ball receiver. Plays way above his size. Reminds me of Odell Beckham Jr. in a lot of ways. I know that Tyreek Hill comp flies out a lot. But I've been on Odell more for a while. I think Jalen Waddle's a little bit more explosive than Odell is. So this is a tough pick for the Lions. Tough pick. I would like to trade down as well. I think we're going to do trades. So if you want to make a trade, you let me know at any point. I'm going to have the Patriots moving up. Big time move. I know the rumor's been the Patriots may be moving up for Fields at 10, which Fields will not last at 10. I don't think there's any shot at that.
No way.
But we're going to move up for Trey Lance. He is a little bit more of a developmental quarterback, and he doesn't have to feel stressed to start right away. We're going to do 15. We'll do a future one just to make this trade work. The whole point of this is to get the trade to go through. It's not like we're going to stress about the details and what it might exactly be. I know people are going to want that, but listen, we have a finite amount of time to record.
But 15 to 7, 2 1s and a 2 seems about right for a quarterback, to be honest. Like, that seems pretty realistic.
I think it's reasonable. I mean, you're not moving up into the top 5, but you know, I don't want to feel stressed to see like the trade calculator and see what it might have to be. But I am going to go Trey Lance here. I think it's a great fit. And once again, I talked about it with if he had gone to the Lions at 7, he wouldn't have to start right away. And it's good because he's not a quarterback that's ready to start right away, even if he does have this great potential ceiling in the future. I think Lance playing under Cam Newton, who is also, in my opinion, criminally underrated, would be a really nice fit for a team that is committed to their future. They made big-time moves in free agency. They're a team that's been trading down for a decade or more. It's finally time they could move up for a difference maker after Tom Brady, and that could be Trey Lance. So we'll take the shot there.
So Carolina at 8. I really desperately want to see what happens with Sam Darnold when he has a supporting structure around him. With better play callers, better receivers, better protection. We never really got to see that with the Jets. I want to see what that looks like. So I'm going to go with Rashawn Slater here at 8. Whether you want to put him at tackle, you want to put him at guard, I don't really think it matters. You just put him wherever you need to fill a hole and get your best 5 on the field. He can play all 5 positions. I mean, you can even play center if you want to. Not that they need him at center, but again, doesn't really matter where you put him. He's going to be successful, which in turn helps Sam Darnold. You've got some weapons there that I really, really like. You have an offensive play caller that I really, really like. You give him protection. You give him the best possible shot to have a good 2021. And again, it's the same kind of argument that I've had with a few other young quarterbacks here. It's like, if you surround him with a structure and he's still bad, fine, I can live with that. But at least surround him with a structure and find out. So that's my motivation with that pick.
Yeah, love Rashawn Slater. I think he probably fights for the starting left tackle job, and if not, I think he would end up settling at right guard. They signed Pat Elflein, have Matt Paradis at center, Taylor Moton's at right tackle. They franchise tagged him. I think they could move him over to left tackle, but I would be surprised. I think Rashawn Slater's a good fit over there anyway, and they have Greg Little, who I'm not particularly high on, but if Rashawn Slater doesn't win at left tackle, or if they want to move him to right guard or something, I think he's a guy that's plug and play, can probably start right away. So I like that. Protect Sam Darnold, give him a chance with Joe Brady and DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey and Robbie Anderson and all these different playmakers on the Carolina offense. That could be a really fun team in 2021. And that makes my life a lot easier at number 9, because I'm just going to take Mac Jones. I'm going to say he could definitely be worth a top 10 selection just because of how valuable quarterbacks are and how quickly they're going off the board. The Broncos, I think, are on the same page as everyone else that Drew Lock isn't the guy, but their offense is pretty much ready to go. I mean, look at the amount of playmakers they have on that offense with Cortland Sutton coming back healthy and KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy and Noah Fant. And I love Albert Okwuegbunam. I think he's a really fun player. And
Wow.
Mac Jones
nailed that one.
Oh, I know how to say it. I've
You're
been
the
knowing how to
only-
say it for years now. I love the Big O at Mizzou.
You're the only person I've ever heard attempt and stick the landing. Just saying.
I remember when he got drafted, and I think it was Trey Wingo called him Albert Akuyabunam, and I go, that's not even close. But yeah, I mean, I love their potential for the future. Like, their defense isn't anything spectacular, but they went out and they made some big time signings to bring back that no-fly zone. I don't love Ronald Darby, but I think he's an upgrade at the position. I love Bryce Callahan in the slot, and you got Kyle Fuller, who is a big time corner. Even if he's not an elite guy, he's a very good corner on the outside. It fits the Vic Fangio defense really well. And yeah, you have some holes at linebacker. We don't have to fill those at number 9 overall. I'm not considering Micah Parsons at this range. You have some holes on the edge, but, you know, like Bradley Chubb's really good. Von Miller, as far as we know, is still there. And then you have, what's his name? Malik Reed still there as well. That has kind of been breaking out a little bit. I don't think you need to go edge there. And is there an edge worth taking? I think Jalen Phillips is a top 10 player, but he has major medical red flags. So I think Mac Jones is kind of just like the most natural selection there. Natural selection. It's not.
I was trying to think, like, if again, they're not in this scenario, but if one of the tackles was there,
Could be a guy like Darasaw. They might fall in love with his long arms.
I mean, he's got decent feet too, especially
Yeah,
like as a
sometimes.
zone run blocker. Like,
Sometimes, like his best tape is phenomenal, and sometimes against bad competition, he's just not playing up to that level.
yeah,
But
the
I do like
consistency's a
Darasaw.
little-
I probably like Tevin Jenkins above Darasaw.
Oh yeah, I do too.
I would consider Vera Tucker, but I think Darasaw gets the nod just because he's a pure tackle, while Vera Tucker's probably going to be a guard, even though he has tackle experience.
I would also like consider Owusu Koromoa here, but I'm an unabashed lover of Owusu Koromoa.
I know you love JOK.
So-
I think he isn't a great schematic fit for the defense, in my opinion, because I don't know if you view him as an inside linebacker in a 3-4, because I don't. And I think we talked about it. He's a pure like overhang defender, and you know, maybe you play him opposite Bryce Callahan and or in that like hybrid box safety role. But Kareem Jackson's coming back. I think it's just too early for a guy like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I don't think it's the right fit in Denver.
I also put, like, if we just want to go like pure BPA, a guy that I think is going to be there for like 7 to 10 years. Like, let's just take the best player. You didn't take him here, but I'm going to take him in the very next pick at 10, and that's J.C. Horn. Ooh. I think you could argue for either Denver or Dallas at 9 or 10 with J.C. Horn. He is the best grade I've given to any DB since Jalen Ramsey when Jalen was coming out.
It's high praise.
He's a corner's corner. In the like all like the top pro corners in the NFL that have been asked, like, hey, who's some of these college guys that you've been watching? Like, who's your favorite? They've all said J.C. Horn. Like, Ramsey himself said it. Richard Sherman said it. Like, Aqib Talib said it. Like, all these big physical, elite boundary corners from the NFL over the last, 10, 12 years have looked at J.C. Horn and said, that's another one of us. Absolutely stunning athlete. Like, relative athletic score, number 1 out of like 1,400 corner prospects in the last 30 years. Like, he is the
Shout
most.
out Kent Lee Platt.
Yes. He does phenomenal work. But J.C. Horn is like the number 1 corner out of all athletes in 3 decades.
Yeah, Horn's a
also
stud.
33-inch arms, great technician. He's got everything you want. I think he's going to be a Dallas Cowboy for a very long time.
Yeah, I definitely don't hate the pick there. And then, I mean, the comment section already knows who I'm taking. I already just basically creamed my pants talking about him earlier. I'm going Jalen Waddle to the Giants. And, like, there are a number of different fits here for the Giants. I think they're kind of wide open with who they could take. I'm kind of avoiding corner because, and I like Patrick Surtain a lot, but I'm avoiding corner because they did go out and sign Adoree Jackson. Not only a 1-year prove-it deal, they gave him a 3-year deal. James Bradbury's still a stud. I think they have hope in Darnay Holmes in the slot, and you have a bunch of different players in the secondary that they're expecting to take big leaps or are under contract. So I'm not really going to think about taking a corner at that spot. The natural fit that everyone wants is taking O-line there, and the Giants' O-line is bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm fully aware of that. But I have faith in some of the younger guys. Matt Parrott flashed last year at right tackle. Nick Gates was a good center the second half of the year. They signed Zach Fulton, who is at worst an okay right guard. And depending on how you feel about Will Hernandez, who got COVID last year and then got benched, was not good at left guard, but he's been okay before. And then Andrew Thomas was the number 4 overall pick just last year. I don't think I'm going tackle with the current tackles on the board. You know, I like Tevin Jenkins a lot. I think Darasaw could be a really good player. I like AVT. But Rashawn Slater's not there. Penei Sewell's not there. I'm going to go with arguably the biggest or big play threat in the draft, and that is Jalen Waddle for an offense that doesn't really have a player even comparable. Not that a lot of offenses do, but they went out and got Kenny Golladay. He's a big-time jump ball receiver. He doesn't separate at all. Sterling Shepard is getting paid $10 million a year to play 7 games a year and catch, quick throws and average 8 yards a catch. Like, Sterling Shepard's not it. I like Darius Slayton, but he's not Jalen Waddle or even close. This is a big-time weapon, and Daniel Jones is in like a prove-it year. So we're going to get him a big-time weapon, and I'm not apologetic. I think that is the best pick for the Giants at the spot.
I would absolutely agree. Just, again, you got to see what you have in Daniel Jones. Give him as much as you can. If he flops, he flops. But at least you get a good player out of it.
Yeah, and you know where you are.
That leaves Devonta Smith for me at 12 with the Eagles, who, again, you got a young quarterback. Build around him. Give him as many tools as you can. Phenomenal receiver. He's my second-rated wide receiver in this class. I think he's perfectly fine playing outside despite his size because
his feet are so good.
They're so good. He's so slippery. He's such a good route runner. He's got such a natural feel for the game. People say, like, well, how's he going to hold up against press at 170? And it's like, well, it doesn't matter if they can't get their hands on him anyway at the line of scrimmage. Like J.C. Horn, who I just gushed about as the best press corner since Jalen Ramsey, couldn't even touch him at the line. So I don't really think his size matters that much if he's not even going to get any hands on him anyway. So I think he's going to be a fantastic receiver in this league, 170 pounds or not, and the Eagles desperately need him.
Yeah, I think that's a fine pick. And that leaves me with kind of a tough call at number 13 because I'm considering corner here with Surtain still on the board. I think it just could be best player available. But then I really want to put an emphasis on protecting Justin Herbert because he's your franchise guy. I think there's no mistake about that. I'm not really considering anything else but Patrick Surtain or the best offensive lineman available. And I do like Tevin Jenkins over Christian Darasaw, but they have Brian Bulaga, and Tevin Jenkins we just know is a right tackle up to this point. So I'm going to go with the pure left tackle that we know at this point, and that is Christian Darasaw. I like Surtain a lot. I just think there should be more of an emphasis on O-line instead of the secondary for right now.
I can see the argument. Personally, I would still go Jenkins just because, again, when you look at like RAS scores, he's a top 30 athlete among all tackles coming out since 1987. So I think he's still plenty athletic enough to play left. He's got the length. As a technician, he's an absolute master already at his young age, and obviously he's a monster physically, in terms of imposing his will on people. I think he could be a left tackle. I can see the argument for people who, just because they haven't really seen it that much, he's played very limited snaps, at least over the last year at left, so it's not really something that people are refreshed on in terms of seeing it. Whereas Christian Darasaw has been a left tackle his whole life, so it's just an easier projection to make. I can see the argument for it for either one of those guys. The overall reasoning of protecting Justin Herbert, I agree with. I really do want to get a corner there that fits Staley's system because they need a true press corner. So Surtain and Horn both make sense, but Justin Herbert is this franchise's whole top priority right now. So keeping him upright, I think, takes precedent. Not by much, but it does take precedent. Which leaves Jalen Phillips for me at 14 for the Vikings, who went, 4 or 5 straight games last year without a single sack from a defensive lineman. Jalen Phillips is the best edge in this class. I think his tape grade for me compared favorably to the Bosa brothers, to Bradley Chubb when he was coming out, Just like a hair under, like the Chase Young, Myles Garrett class of prospect. Like, you can ding him a little bit for concussions and injuries and stuff like that, but when he's on the field, he is a remarkable pass rusher, and I don't think he gets past Minnesota at 14. I can't see that happening. I
think it's impossible to turn on the tape and not view him as the best on-field player. It's pretty difficult to know, how teams are going to value a guy that's already retired and could be a concussion away from never playing again. I mean, you have to view that. You have to think about that. But he has the best hands of any edge in the class very easily. He has developed counter moves, which not a lot of these edges in the class do, with his athleticism, with his bend, with his motor, with his ability to defend the run as well as get after the quarterback. Jalen Phillips is so good. I know you were on this for a while. I called him Edge 1 months ago. I am completely on the same page. I think Jalen Phillips is the best edge by a lot. By a lot.
By the
He's
way,
a really good player.
On the retirement thing, something I want people to know. He didn't want to retire. UCLA made him retire. Because they have a policy where you get 3 concussions while you're there. They force you into medical retirement, whether you want to or not.
I'm about to have a coughing fit. Hold on. Wrong pipe.
Damn. You all right?
All right. Now I'm going to die.
But yeah, UCLA forced him to retire. One of those concussions, I think, came when he got hit by that car when he was on his bike. So it's not even like they were all from football. That was when he kind of mangled his wrist as well. So UCLA forced him to retire. He went and worked at his dad's company for a little bit. He went to a JC to kind of like work on music production, and he loved that.
I read an entire article about that. It was crazy.
Yeah, and eventually Stanford was like, hey, we don't have that policy. You want to come play for us? And then Miami realized that Stanford was in on him, and they're like, we got to get in on him too. Our music program's great. You want to come play for us? And then he ended up choosing Miami because of the music program. But yeah, like I've not you, but I've heard other people say like, well, he retired. How much does he love football? And it's like, he didn't want to retire. Like, they made him do it.
The only one where I really know about someone that maybe how much does he love football is Micah Parsons. But I hadn't heard anything about that with Jalen Phillips. I just know the medical red flag with the concussions, and that, I mean, forced retirement or not, like, it's a serious issue. I mean, the league is taking concussions more seriously than ever. And I mean, you hope everybody stays healthy, but there is a risk with him.
Yeah, of course.
This makes it very interesting at number 15 overall. I don't want to go corner in back-to-back drafts for the Lions, but I think Surtain's almost too good to pass up.
God, who's like the only other equally rated players you could argue for me?
I'm considering Tevin Jenkins as well at this point, just because BPA.
Yeah, maybe Vera Tucker. Like, a lot of people are super big on Vera Tucker.
He's going to be a really good guard. I don't know that he's ever going to be the best in the league, but I think he's going to be really good. This is an interesting call. I might just go Tevin Jenkins. Because, I mean, you went corner last year, and the offensive line investment in Halapuli Vaitai didn't work out. Could have just called him Hal, but I got to show off after Albert Oakley.
These names, man. You're just crushing these names.
My only talent. But Tevin Jenkins is a plug-and-play right tackle. And, even after maybe Taylor Decker leaves, you can play him on the left side. Either way, you're getting a really good player. I don't think anyone will be mad about this selection just because it's a really good player at this spot.
I'm struggling here with Arizona.
Really?
Because I know who I want to take.
Who's that?
Patrick Surtain.
Okay, so do it. Dude, have you seen the cornerback depth chart for Arizona?
That's what
brutal.
Because like, I know they took Byron Murphy, but he's really better as a nickel more than anything.
And who else? Name one other corner on the team for $100.
I think they have Alford still, right?
He should still
Alford?
be there. He didn't play last year, but he actually should be coming back. But that's another guy who's like.
And there's Peterson. There's Peterson, but the other Peterson, not the real Peterson.
Who is the other Peterson?
It's like Kevin Peterson, I think. Who was like
They have one player. He was in Jacksonville. He didn't play at all there. I tweeted about this guy because he had a ridiculous name. What is his name? Oh, now I need to look this up.
Oh, they signed Malcolm Butler too. I forgot about that. But Malcolm Butler's not going to stop me from taking.
He's
Surtain.
horrific.
So I'll go Surtain just because it's best combination of need and talent. I'll go with that.
I think that's I know I kind of forced you into that, but like there was no way I was letting you not.
Because I kind of wanted to like get another weapon. Just to like, because like AJ Green's a mercenary at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I never like was really into the Andy Isabella pick to begin with, so it's like maybe I can get. But with Waddle off the board, there's none that really like are super obvious to me at receiver for them at that point. So yeah, Surtain makes sense.
Yeah, I just covered up your face cam for a minute to show Picasso Nelson Jr., the corner for the Cardinals. I don't know if you know Picasso Nelson.
His name is Picasso?
I swear. Picasso
What?
Nelson Jr. Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
I know. And this is actually an interesting pick for the Raiders at 17. I'm in between 3, even though it really should be 2. I love the fit of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I think this is a really good spot for him, for a team that needs him. I think if Tevin Jenkins is on the board, I think this is Tevin Jenkins. A little bit of a hiccup there. I also like AVT. I think people are going to want me to take Micah Parsons. I don't think he fits the defense. I really don't. They need linebackers that can cover, and that is not Micah Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also thinking about Trayvon Merrick down the board, just because he's arguably the best safety in the class, and I think, not even arguably, I think he is the best true safety in the class. And the Raiders secondary is disastrous. They re-signed Carl Joseph, and that doesn't change anything. But I am going to go JOK. I think he's just a great fit. He's exactly what the Raiders need at linebacker, and he's another like hybrid safety, overhang defender, and that's just a perfect fit for me in Las Vegas.
Yeah, Corey Littleton was a good coverage linebacker with the Rams, and
Yeah, what happened?
it just kind of fell apart for him last year. Some people are saying, well, the scheme was too complicated, so he lost track of assignments and stuff like that. And I remember watching, I was like, it wasn't really that complicated. Like, they were fancier than Gus Bradley, but when they weren't doing like
Who's your
Indiana.
DC? But with Paul Gunther?
Yeah,
Is he still there?
It's like a lot of like what Mike Zimmer does. So it's like we're double mugging, we're running Ripley's, like wasn't that complicated. Yeah, I think he just lost his assignments. Like Owusu-Koramoah, I think is just a better version of what people hope Corey Littleton to be in every single way. Like
exactly. You look at Owusu-Koramoah in man coverage even versus receivers in the slot, and you go, oh, that's a cornerback. And then you look at the depth chart or the roster, and you go, oh, that's a 215-pound linebacker.
Yeah.
But I know he's playing at like 205, which is like some cornerback weight, but really good player because he can play in the box too.
He was getting PPUs on Amari Rodgers in the slot.
There you go. One of the best slot separators in the draft.
Yeah. So at 18, what can I get here? A lot of people are just throwing Micah Parsons in there, but since they got McKinney, they don't need him. McKinney's going to play that role and be just fine at it. And to be honest, I think he's a better player than Micah Parsons at this point anyway.
For sure.
Running back, still too early for me to look at running back.
Thank you.
The best players are honestly guys they don't need. That's what's really hard. Man, this is tough.
I think you'd probably be in between because you took Jamar Chase at number 6. We have the weapons for Tua. Yeah. I think you'd probably consider offensive line. They went out, they tried to take a chance on Isaiah Wilson, and he got cut within like the first 2 days. Their offensive line, they have talent. It's not incredible. They have Robert Hunt. They have he was playing right tackle last year. Wasn't anything particularly amazing. I think center is a pretty big weak spot for them, but I'm not sure if you value Landon Dickerson as a guy that goes here. It's probably a little early. and then
Yeah,
maybe
and
you could
just
think
with
about
his-
taking an edge player as well.
The thing with Dickerson, like 4 out of his last 5 years, he ended on IR. Like
That is tough, but his tape is really good.
it's really good.
AVT could play left guard if you need him to.
I'm thinking maybe Cosme. I like
Ooh.
Cosme a lot. Let me look at their depth chart.
Because then
still.
Hunt would move to guard because they took Austin Jackson round 1 last year.
Yeah, and because Hunt and Kinley would fight it out. You know, their 2nd and 4th round pick from last year. Hunt and Kinley would
Solomon
fight it out
Kinley's
for
a good
guard.
player.
Flowers, I think, has really turned his career around as a guard.
He's been solid at left guard for sure. Ever since
Man.
leaving the Giants, he's been pretty good.
This is so tough. Like, safety, like Bobby McCain and Eric Rowe, they are set.
Not
Jalen
even
Phillips,
to mention how good my guy out of Texas was last year, Brandon Jones.
Yeah.
Brandon
He's
Jones is a
another
good
one of my
player.
guys. Man, this is so tough. This is like literally the hardest pick in the draft because the thing is, it's because Miami's good. It's because their roster is good. That's why this is so hard.
So what's to say this isn't a luxury pick then? And then you go with the back. It's a little early, but this could be the range where a running back goes.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong. But at the same time, would you rather have Cosme and at worst get a really swing guard by default out of Hunt and Kinley, and get like Khalil Herbert later, or would you rather get Etienne in a developmental tag? I'm gonna go with Cosme.
I think it's a fine pick. He's good technically, and he's a great athlete. That's a pretty good combo.
Yeah,
at,
top
offensive tackle.
1%, top 1% athlete, like of all tackles. Like he's phenomenal. And again, that just gives you an opportunity. Put your best 5 on the field up front, pick up a running back later, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think I probably would have considered edge a little bit more than you did at that spot. You know, there aren't amazing ones available. I know a lot of guys love Azeez Ojulari. I think he's good in spurts. He's stiff as a board. He's got pretty much no bend off the edge, which he takes good like angles to the quarterback at times, but he has no bend. I don't know why people are saying he's bendy. From what I could tell, I'm not seeing it. And then Kwity Paye is the best run defender at edge in the class.
Kwity Paye is
where I'm
one
going to stop that.
I would consider Kwity because also he's the kind of like inside-outside kind of guy that Flores loves, but they just already have guys that do that.
Yeah,
so
it's tough. And Agba broke out, but so maybe Ojulari makes sense as just a pure rush specialist. But for Washington football team, I'm in an interesting spot. Not a bad spot to be in. I know they're fairly committed to their offensive line, which is a little peculiar to me because you have standout names like Jaron Christian, who, you know, isn't anything special. I think he was a 3rd-round pick a few years ago. Isn't a bad player per se, but I mean, it's certainly an upgradable position at left tackle. And Vera Tucker, I think, is a good fit overall. Could just be best player available. But I think we're going to stop the fall of Micah Parsons. It's not like their linebacking group is anything special. I mean, Sean Dion Hamilton, is he still there? He might be the best linebacker in the group, and he's not special. I think John Bostic might be there. It's not really a good group in general. And for a guy that can just play downhill, surrounded by the best, or arguably the best D-line in the league, with Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne and Montez Sweat, who was pretty good last year, and did I forget to mention Chase Young? I think Micah Parsons is just going to have clean paths to the ball carriers and even the quarterback, depending on if, you know, maybe he's overloading or whatever. But I don't trust Micah Parsons in space. I think this is a really good fit for him because he can just be an athlete and not worry about being misdirected every other play, because I think his job's going to be made a lot easier by the front 4. I think I have big problems with him in coverage, and I don't think he can play off the edge, but I think his athleticism is going to play, and I think he's a good player, even if he's not top 10 in the draft for me, the way he is for a lot of other guys.
That makes a lot of sense. I still have no idea where Parsons is going to go in the real draft. I got no idea.
Yeah, I mean, you see top 10, you see at the end of the 1st round. He's a tough projection, but I think this is kind of like the happy middle ground.
When I do my own mock drafts, like, it's hard for me to find a spot from the 1st round period. Just like schematic fit wise, and people say like, well, you just draft the athlete and you fit the scheme around him. All the time.
Yeah, not in this situation.
Not for Mike linebacker.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't see him really as a Mike much at all. But once again, I think this is just a good spot for him to play around other talented players, and it make his job easier for a guy that is a stud athlete and can play really well when he plays downhill. So
I just think if you have to change your defense, if you have to change,
they wouldn't have to though. They wouldn't have to.
Well, them specifically, they wouldn't have to. But like all these other, like I'll see fans of different teams saying like, oh, we should get Micah. We should get Micah. Like Raiders fans say, we should get Micah Parsons. Like we'll just adapt to him. It's like if you have to change your defense to make a
player,
to make a Mike linebacker.
He's not even a Mike. He's not. I'm not gonna let you call him that. I don't view him as
I'm
a
just
Mike
saying
linebacker.
what people want him to play Mike.
Yeah.
And it's like if you have to change your entire defense to make him be somewhat passable at Mike, you need
He's
to
not worth taking.
Get a different linebacker.
Exactly. Especially, this is a good linebacker class. I think this is a, as the kids say, slept on. This is a slept on linebacker class.
Yeah.
There are some really, really good players down the board. I like
get
a lot
Werner.
of them. Yeah, hybrid safety linebacker type player. That's like
Werner,
your budget Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
Yeah, Werner's great. People. Who's the other one from Ohio
Baron
State?
Browning. Yeah, he's a good athlete. He played well down the stretch. He's not that type of a player on a down-to-down basis. He might sneak in the back end of the first for a team taking a shot at a great athlete, but I think Pete Werner, there's an argument for him being a better player overall. Definitely more consistency. And probably
I think so.
More versatility as well.
I just think
another guy that could be an overhang.
For what you want a linebacker to do, and this is me talking about, like, again, Washington actually fits Micah, but the general Micah Parsons discussion. For what you want a linebacker to do, he doesn't do that stuff. It's very similar to like when Anthony Barr was coming out, except Anthony Barr picked up linebacker pretty well, and that was a projection. Like that was a former running back turned edge rusher that they converted to linebacker over the course of like 3 years, and it happened to work somehow. And yet,
great athlete.
He was the first round pick that got outplayed his entire career by Eric Kendricks, who they got later. So it's like
those UCLA kids can play.
It's a projection, a massive projection. And it's like, at least I know Jamin Davis can do it. At least I know that Zaven Collins can do it and that Pete Werner can do it. Like a lot of the stuff that you want a traditional linebacker to do, I've never seen Micah Parsons do before. So I don't know.
Yeah, he's a tough player. And when you factor in like the off the field concerns with him and how much does he love football report, I don't know how to take stock in that, but I can take stock in the stuff that happened at Penn State if you've looked into that, because that's believable, and there have been reports filed about it. So I don't know how the league's going to view his fit schematically or as a culture fit. He's a tough projection. But Dan Snyder is the guy who runs the show there. He's heard about Micah Parsons for years now. Why not?
Yeah, I could see that. With me at 20, I'm going to go with Terrace Marshall. For the Bears. I'm really, really high on Terrace Marshall.
I like Terrace Marshall a lot, too.
I think A-Rob is only going to be there for another year. He's getting the hell out of town as soon as he can. Marshall, I think, is a guy who you can play him as a big slot. You can play him outside. He's played both positions at LSU. Great route runner. Obviously impeccable, physical ability. He'll have some concentration drops every now and then, but overall, I think he's got pretty good ball skills. I think he's a potential actual number one wide receiver. Some people keep, projecting like gadget guys like Tony and Rondale to them, but I think they need an actual true dedicated X receiver.
I think Darnell Mooney has potential to be a great Z, but if you lose Allen Robinson, you're in a tough spot because Anthony Miller is an average slot guy at best.
I don't even know if Anthony Miller's going to be on the team next year. To be honest.
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if he gets moved. Just being 100% honest with you, I would not be surprised if he gets traded. And so I think in the absence of trading the next 3 drafts to go up and get Justin Fields if he's available at 4, Terrace Marshall's the next best thing I can think of for the Bears.
I could see that. I'm a big Rashad Bateman guy as well. I think he's as close to an Allen Robinson replacement as you're going to get, at least like physically, and then you factor in the route running as well. And it's not like Allen Robinson, came out of Penn State and was the guy that he is now. Like, he wasn't that player in Jacksonville. He was good. He was really solid, but he developed big time. And then Allen Robinson's been underrated for a long time, and it's been from horrific quarterback play. So Allen Robinson's great, but he's gone. He's franchise tagged. And then we are in an interesting position at number 21 because whenever I've been mocking for the Colts in the past, I've been pro replace Anthony Costanzo. It is a huge loss. But out of the guys available, am I going to go down for Liam Eichenberg? Am I going to take AVT? If you don't view Vera Tucker as a left tackle, which is certainly fair, I don't think you take him at 21, which leaves me in a bit of a bind here. I would almost wonder about teams moving up, but who are you going to move up for at this point?
Nobody.
There's no clear trade for me.
Yeah.
So we're going to stick it out. Could go wide receiver. Could go corner. I think this is a really good spot for Greg Newsome, actually. Let's do that then. Let's go Greg Newsome.
I can see that.
We'll take tackle round 2. Probably. But Greg Newsome's a good fit. They need cornerback help badly. They've got a good defense, don't get me wrong. But cornerback, I think, is a glaring hole for them. Even if you like Rock Yassin, even if you like Kenny Moore, he's a nickel guy. Greg Newsome is a boundary guy, and there's a lot to like with him. There is some things to not like. I think Greg Newsome at times gets a little lost. But all in all, on his best day, Greg Newsome, I think, is a round 1 corner. Even if he's not like a top 32 player in the draft for me. I think he's close. And I think this is just a good fit. I like Eric Stokes a lot. We talked about Eric Stokes in the DMs. I think people are a little bit low on him.
He's good.
But
really
Greg Newsome's real good. And we're going to say that Caleb Farley's a really great player and is the player that definitely could go here. But his injury concern moves him down a little bit. And I'm just not comfortable taking him at that spot, even if I will on maybe my next pick. We'll see.
The thing with Farley is there's an 80% chance that he's going to recover and be fine. This is from actual surgeons saying this. There's a 20% chance that he won't, and then he's going to have to get a fusion, which is an entirely different can of worms. So again, it's the 80s encouraging, but spending a first round pick on that potential 20% when there's a really good corner class like this, like corners loaded this year, you don't necessarily have to take the risk on Farley. You can get another dude and be totally fine, sleep like a baby, and not have that. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Farley goes on day 2 just because of the strength of the corner class, plus that just nagging thing in the back of a GM's head where it's like, I don't want to take a dude who has a 20% chance of needing to get.
We've seen it before where really good players go at the top of day 2. Jalen Smith and Miles Jack are, I think, the 2 most recent best examples of that. And yeah, it totally makes sense for Farley to fall to maybe top of the 2nd round. We'll have to see.
I was looking at corner for a long time, speaking of Farley with the Titans. They did sign Janoris, but that's not really enough to make. And by the way, they also drafted Christian Fulton last year.
Yeah.
Neither of those guys is enough to make me pass up on Ifeatu Melifonwu right here. I'm very high on him. I think the fact that he can play up in bump and run alignments with his size and length, or he's got good enough feet and hips to play off if you really want to as well, which, Vrabel corners typically do both. Like, it's not just press and it's not just off. It depends on if you're like field side and boundary side. It depends on, if it's 3x1, 2x2, what have you. But you need to be able to do a little bit of everything in that system, and he does do a little bit of everything. Really physical player, tackles well. I think he's a really, really good corner. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes ahead of Farley. And considering his physical ability and considering just the kind of attitude he plays with on tape, I think he's very much a Mike Vrabel kind of guy. And so I'm going to go with him here at 22.
That definitely makes sense. I like Melifonwu a lot. I got to Syracuse probably 2 weeks ago, maybe, when I was looking at cornerbacks. I looked at Trill Williams, who is a super mixed bag. But Melifonwu stands out. He's just bigger and faster than pretty much everyone he went up against. And, I mean, he's one of the better press corners in the draft. Love Melifonwu. I think Buffalo is a really good fit for him if he falls to 30.
Oh, yeah.
But Jets at 23. Their cornerback group's terrible. It really is. And I like Eric Stokes a lot. I really do. And I think this is kind of perfect range for him, especially when you take in the testing. I don't think he plays that fast, honestly. But I think a team could see that testing and say, okay, we know we have a really good player on tape already. You know, it takes his lumps. I mean, Jalen Waddle abused him at times. But Waddle
abuses he abuses everybody. He got J.C. Horn even. Like, it happens, you know?
Yeah. I think Stokes is just a really good fit for a team that desperately needs corner, because you can't go out there with Bryce Hall as CB1 next year and expect good results. You need to get some type of help. And it's tempting to double up on offense and give Justin Fields a weapon or give Justin Fields protection on the O-line, but that defense is so poor. And if you can't stop opposing offenses, what good is having a great quarterback anyway? Because you're going to let up 40 points a game. The Jets defense is horrific. They made some big-time signings in Carl Lawson, who is one of the better edge rushers in the league, silently. But you need to develop that defense a little bit. I think Stokes is a step in the right direction.
So with the Steelers, this one's tough because I really wanted to go tackle, but...
Where are they?
Yeah. I mean, the next best one's probably Brady Christensen.
Great athlete again.
And, man, I'm not, like, super...
He's a little old, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
He's like 20, give me 25, right?
It's BYU. I'm not super surprised by that. You know, their average age of players at BYU is like collecting Social Security. So I'm not really surprised. But man, they don't need Elijah Vera Tucker. Like, they already have two great guards. Running back seems kind of unnecessary considering the state of the offensive line. They don't need any edge rushers, because they just took what's his face last year, who I actually
Alex
really
Highsmith out of Charlotte, like him too. I liked him coming out of Charlotte. He was a top 100 player for me, and he flashed last year. He was good at times.
Yeah. Oh man, this is so tough. All right, give me Christensen. I need him.
Okay.
I got nothing else.
Yeah, I think it's a good fit. I mean, he's like Sam Cosmi in a lot of ways as well. So I could definitely see him going round one. This kind of is a no-brainer for me. I got to go Christian Barmore. I got to take the shot. Like, they invested a little bit on defense. I think bringing in Roy Robertson Harris was really big for them. I think that's another like under-the-radar guy that people don't know about. But, you know, really, really good, kind of versatile front player that can offer that interior rush that is so valuable for defenses. Well, Barmore is a big-time player at times. I mean, he certainly improved a lot over the course of the season. I think that's really encouraging. And for a 3-down interior defensive lineman, they don't really have that. I like Devon Hamilton. He's a nose tackle. You're not going to have him in on 3 downs. It's just not going to happen. I think Barmore is a guy that you don't really have to feel stressed about taking out and rotating out all the time like you will with some of these other guys. I think Barmore is just plug and play, start him day one, and you'll probably be pretty happy with the result. I like him a lot. I like his second half way better than his first half game film. But this is a guy, when he turns it on, that size and that speed at the position is pretty unbelievable. I think he's like 6'5", 300, and he moves like someone a lot smaller than that. Has pretty good hands. It's just, it's about being more consistent. But I think Jacksonville would probably buy on his upside. And this is, I think it's got to be his ceiling. I think he's too good of a player, potentially, in a weak interior defensive line class to get out of the top 25.
Mainly just because of the class he's in. Like, there's not a whole lot of like there's some guys late that are really, really intriguing. The Milton Williams of the world, that are just ridiculous athletes. But it's not a year for defensive tackles. So if you need one,
it's
gotta
tough
go
not to
early.
have like grade or like second or third round grades on like 10 of these guys, but there's not really a big standout first round guy other than I think Barmore with the size and the hands and the potential. I think you're buying high on Christian Barmore, but I think it's worth it. I think it's worth the shot. Have you been deliberating?
I have made my decision.
Oh, yeah?
Now that you have returned.
Where are we going?
Quiddy Pay.
I think it makes sense.
I'm going to pair him up with Myles Garrett. Just considering that Tack is only there on a 1-year deal, not to mention that Tack hasn't necessarily lived up to his draft billing in the first place. Quiddy Pay is just phenomenally physically gifted. And just getting another guy in there for their edge rotation with Olivier Vernon, tore his Achilles in like second to last week of the year last year. Like
tough. He's older as well.
And he's older as well.
The cap casualty.
Yeah, Quiddy Pay reminds me a lot of Everson Griffin.
Okay.
Which I think Everson Griffin's a great player, at least he was in his prime. And if Quiddy can even be like 80% of Everson Griffin, this is a good pick.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't have the pass rush ability that Griffin does. But, I mean, if you're talking about coming out of school, I guess that makes a little bit more sense before Everson Griffin broke out. Yeah, Pay just doesn't have the ability to really rush the passer with anything other than effort for right now. I think this pick could be different depending on if they get Jadeveon Clowney or not, as that's rumored. I know he's coming in for a visit on, was it Monday? I'm not sure if Clowney's going to sign with the
Even if they get Clowney, though, like, yeah.
Well, let's say, is it going to be another 1-year prove-it deal? It might be. It might be.
Nope. Knowing JD, it will be.
Mm-hmm. So I really don't mind it. I don't mind it. And then the Ravens at 27, they're in an interesting spot too. I'm extremely tempted to go Elijah Vera-Tucker here, just because that interior offensive line isn't anything special. Center is a particularly weak spot, but I don't think we're going to play him at center, but he's maybe too good to pass up on. But then you have nothing on the edge. You could use a big-time receiver. Man. Oh, I want to go Elijah Vera-Tucker. I'm not going to, though. I'm going Rashad Bateman. I think it's just a perfect fit. For a team that wanted to get Allen Robinson, we talked about how he could be similar to Allen Robinson in some ways. Why not go out and get your little budget Allen Robinson right now and see if you can get a big-time receiver? This hopefully would open things up for him and Hollywood Brown. There needs to be something to help out Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. I'm also tired of the Lamar hate, calling him a running back, but people saying it not as a joke. If you're being sarcastic, that's fine. But people legitimately think Lamar Jackson's not a good quarterback, and it drives me insane.
He's an
Rashad
MVP.
Bateman would help. People forget Josh Allen's way better than him now because Josh Allen finished third after Lamar Jackson's MVP season. Oh, the year before last.
Yeah,
Don't even get me started, Brett.
Don't get me started. He led the league in passing touchdowns, won MVP because he led the league in passing touchdowns. People said, "Oh, he can't pass." What?
Don't get me started.
What?
They'll say anything. People will say anything.
Make sense. The Saints at 28, another one of those teams where like their roster's so loaded that they don't really need a whole lot. I mean, if there was a quarterback that was worth it, fine, but there isn't. Man, the offensive line's great. Receiver could use some help, I guess, because you lost Emmanuel Sanders. He was a cap casualty. Defensive line, they did lose Malcolm Brown.
Who's the corner right now? Just Marshawn Lattimore, pretty much.
Lattimore
lost Jackrabbit.
Well, you got Janoris is gone. Patrick Robinson.
Yeah, I said lost Jackrabbit.
Oh, lost Jackrabbit. Yeah.
Patrick Robinson's what, 34 at a slot corner?
Something like that. Yeah. Malcolm Jenkins is old as dirt
and bad.
Chauncey's their nickel, which I like that. Marcus Williams at free safety.
Franchise tagged.
Okay.
I think the Saints are treading water, honestly, with their roster.
Well, it's really strong in some areas and then just okay in others.
Mm-hmm.
Like tight end, I think could use some help.
Ooh, Adam Troutman, please. I'm a big Adam Troutman guy.
I like Adam Troutman too,
I think
but not as much as Pat Freiermuth.
Yikes.
Did I tell you I partied with Adam Troutman's family at the parking lot in the Senior Bowl?
That's the weirdest story I've heard today.
They're good people.
How did that come about?
Well, just his family and like a whole bunch of his teammates from Dayton drove like 14 hours to go down to the Senior Bowl.
That's awesome.
And I was there, and we did a couple shots in the parking lot, and they were just losing their mind. Great people. Love that family.
That is real degenerate shit.
Oh man,
doing shots in a parking lot. What, at 11 in the morning?
Oh, it's very Mobile, Alabama.
Shout out to RBT if you're watching.
Farley at 28 I wouldn't hate that.
This is a team that would take a shot or could take a shot because of the strength of their roster.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, they could also take a shot on Owe.
Yeah, I mean, they've been down that road with Marcus Davenport, but we'll see if he breaks out now that he might get consistent playing time.
That's very true. Demario Davis, I still think has a couple good years left in him. They took Zach Bond, who I'm a big fan of Zach Bond. Show me corners just to see who's there, see who I'm forgetting about.
I think there are maybe four guys I could see sneaking into this spot.
Between Farley, Asante, depending on how you feel about him outside, I think he can do it. I think he can do it as well. I'm a big Paulson Adebo guy. I think he can
one of the best zone corners in the draft.
Yeah. Kelvin Joseph, I like.
Another good zone cover corner. He's got the length that pushes him up over Adebo probably for this predictive board.
Yeah, I haven't looked at is it St. Juiced or St. Just?
Yeah, St. Juiced.
I haven't looked at him yet.
He's another guy with great length for the position. He reminds me of some ways of Ifeatu Melifon, where I think he's less explosive, for sure. But he's another one of those like lengthy corners.
Yeah. Oh man, this is.
I don't really think he's a round one guy though.
Okay. I think in times like this, I'm just gonna go with the dude that's most likely to give me points, because whether it's Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston, I just want points. I want them to be as successful as humanly possible. So I'm gonna go with Elijah Moore.
Ooh, love Elijah Moore. It's I mean, they're gonna find ways to use him.
I think you can play Michael Thomas outside. He doesn't have to be a slot receiver. You can play him outside full time as like an X, and you put Elijah Moore in the slot, or you can make Elijah Moore a Z. I think that's fine too if you really want to keep Michael as an X. You give him carries. I mean, shit, you could put him in the backfield while Kamara's in the slot. Again, you'll find a way. You'll find a way to work him in there. Yeah.
I like that. I think Elijah Moore is a really good player. He was force-fed the ball at Ole Miss, but I think for a reason. I mean, he has the route running to get open every play.
Yeah.
I'm in a tough spot with the Packers here because, I mean, everything's telling me to either go corner or receiver, but Elijah Vera Tucker is still on the board for a team that really, really was hurt on the O-line last year, and it's the reason why they lost games down the stretch. And it's why the Bucs blew them out the middle way through the year.
And Jenkins is moving to center, so there's an opening at guard, theoretically.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
That's why I was so confused by when they let Lindsley go. I was like, why would you let arguably the best center in the league go?
All pro last year.
It's like, because they're moving Jenkins to center because they like Runyon, who was their
John Runyon Jr. Yeah.
But it's like, Elijah Vera Tucker can either beat out Runyon or Lucas Patrick. Doesn't even matter. Which. Just throw him into camp and he'll beat one of them. So it makes sense.
Yeah, it's just every year I say go out and get a receiver for Aaron Rodgers. And their cornerback group is horrific right now outside Jair.
But they re-signed Kevin King. What are you talking about? They're fine.
Oh, they're fine now. They'll have a lock for allowing 30-yard plays every time he steps on the field. I hate to do it, but I am going to go AVT. And just because I think corner and receiver are big-time needs, but to get someone that you know is going to play right away and is an upgrade at the position, and at worst, a big-time, solid backup, worst-case scenario, when someone inevitably gets injured, he's just too good for the spot to pass up. I think AVT could go as high as like 11 to the Giants, but he falls big time. And it's not because he's a bad player, but it's just more pressing needs for every other team, or not good schematic fits.
So the Bills, I think, are a really good spot for Jason Owe to be the player that we all hope Jason Owe will eventually be. Because they have a great coaching staff. They don't need him to play right away. You still have Jerry Hughes there, who's ancient, but still getting it done. Epinesa is there, who's going to be playing ahead of him anyway. I think you can just bring him in to learn from Jerry Hughes and then just be an absolute flamethrower off the edge on like 30 to 40% of snaps as a rookie, and just kind of bring him along. There's not a whole lot of coaching staffs that I trust to develop him better than Buffalo's would. I'm going to go Jason Owe at 30 for Buffalo.
I think it's fine value. Owe's hands aren't terrible all the time. He's not just this like freak athlete. First of all, I wasn't sold on Owe from just like watching Penn State because, no sacks. You can't stop hearing about it. And then when I watched him play, and I was looking at Chaka Tony too, and I go, who's this massive freak off the edge? I don't know what he's listed at, Owe, but he looks even bigger than that. 6'5", 260. All right, that actually seems about right. But he's huge. And his hands aren't bad when he uses them. He just needs to develop more of a plan, and I think Buffalo is a great fit with good D-line coaches there. I think that's fine, especially in the role that you like. As someone that, again, no pressure to start, just plays off the edge on 3rd and long, whatever, 1st and 10. Mm-hmm. Now the Chiefs at 31. I have to go O-line here. I have to go tackle. I wouldn't forgive myself otherwise. I think receiver could be in play. Kadarius Toney's fun just because, it's a fun player to a fun team for the same reason Rondale Moore was or would be. But with Mecole Hardman and Tyreek Hill, I don't want to do that. I want to go offensive tackle. We have to figure out a way to replace these big-time losses in Eric Fisher, who was solid, and then, of course, one of the best tackles in the league in Mitchell Schwartz. And who's the best guy to do that? I think it might be Radons out of North Dakota State. Solid player. 2020 tape's pretty good against no competition except for Ellerson Smith.
Yeah,
Ellerson,
the one
something.
game they played.
Yeah, Ellerson Smith dominated the Senior Bowl, but so did Radons. I like Dylan Radons. I think this is probably about the highest he would go in the draft. Good player, but offensive tackles are flying off the board. Who do you like in that spot other than that? I mean, Eichenberg maybe Mayfield, I think, is not like I think he's a mid-second round guy, probably.
Mayfield's a guard to me. I think he's a guard.
Yeah, I could see that. I know that's been the projection because he just can't handle speed rushers, but
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see. Now you got an interesting pick. Every time I've done mock drafts, and I've done a lot of them over the course of this year, the Bucs have been the most interesting team to pick for because they kind of don't really have a ton of needs. They brought back their big-time players, and who do you go with?
Man. I really like Levi Onwuzurike here, but they don't really need him. They don't need linebacker. Don't need edge. Secondary's fine. Running back's fine. They got a million of them now.
Mm-hmm.
Tight end is fine, assuming everybody comes back. Like when I say everybody, I mean like O.J. Howard, assuming he's healthy, and then Rob's running it back for another year. Offensive line's elite. I sure as hell am not taking quarterback because people keep saying, "Oh, Davis Mills at 32," and I think you're insane if you do that. So I'm not doing that.
He's my quarterback 7, I believe. I think he's decent, but I don't think he's a first round guy at all.
No, not first round at all. Okay, so let me look at best players available here. So, Man. I don't hate Ojulari. He's a really solid player.
Great scheme fit as well.
Perfect scheme fit. Yeah, let's go Ojulari.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, just he's so disciplined. He's a great run defender on the edge. Like, he knows what he's doing. I don't think he'll ever be a top tier pass rusher like a Shaq Barrett. But he's just solid. You know, he's like a Whitney Merciless type guy. He's just solid, and you could do a lot worse than that with 32.
Oh yeah, he's your eventual JPP replacement and also rotational pass rusher. I think it's a fine role for him. We talked about that earlier. Yeah, and I'm not going to hesitate too long on this one. I'm going to go Trayvon Merrick. Safety is a weak point for Jacksonville. You can't have Andrew Wingard be your best safety. That's a big problem, and he was their best safety last year. Who did they sign? They signed a Rayshawn Jenkins to a big deal. That was a little bit peculiar to me. But Merrick is just too good to not go at this spot for me. Arguably the best safety in the draft. And Jacksonville is becoming a decent team. I mean, they've made big-time improvements. Things are set up so that if they hit on their draft picks with how many that they have, they should be able to hit on a couple of them. I think Merrick is just a really, really good fit for a team that's on the rise. I mean, it's a little bit wild, but you could make the argument that by season's end, or at least in 2022, the Jags could be the second best team in the AFC South. As crazy as that sounds, but the Titans are on a downtrend with a lot of their big losses, and I mean the Texans.
The Texans
don't even have to mention them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Jags. The Jags have a bright future potentially. We'll have to see. Obviously, things have to work out, but I think Merrick's just too good to not take at that spot.
For the Jets, I'm going to go Pat Freiermuth here at 34. I think he's second best tight end in this class, obviously because Kyle Pitts is Kyle Pitts. But Freiermuth himself, I think, is a first-round quality tight end that potentially could slip into the top of day 2, like what happens here. Really good blocker. Keep in mind, all of his great blocking tape from this past year was with a torn labrum. So he was doing that with a bad shoulder and still was a good blocker. I think he's way quicker than people think he is athletically. Just a very, very, very solid tight end. He kind of reminds me of like a Hunter Henry type, but like even better as a blocker. But as like a receiver, he moves a lot like Hunter Henry does. So I think he would immediately be their best tight end and be a perfect pairing with Justin Fields.
I like Chris Herndon a lot, actually, but I could definitely buy this with Herndon struggling to stay on the field over the past couple years and really hasn't had the chance to develop in a big way. And yeah, I mean, he has big shoes to fill with Jay Samaro, but this is finally they get their replacement for Jay Samaro. It's
after all these years,
it's tough. But man, Jay Samaro was good coming out of Tech, but just did not put it together. Tough call for the Falcons here at 35. Went Kyle Pitts in the first round. We know we're going defense probably. And who do you go with? Well, I think Caleb Farley still being on the board at this point. I think this is a pretty good spot for him. And it's the Falcons saying, hey, we're in a win now mode. If Farley's healthy, he can help us win now better than a lot of these other players available. We'll take the chance. I think it's kind of like the natural fit there.
So I was tempted to take a running back from Miami at 36 in the first round, and I'm glad I didn't because they're all here in the second round anyway. So I'm going to go with a guy who's already very familiar with Tua. Not necessarily my top-ranked running back. He's kind of like tied at running back 2. Like Travis Etienne, I think, is going to end up as my RB1 when I finalize my rankings. Najee and Javonte are kind of tied for, 2A, 2B. But the fact that Najee already knows Tua, they have good connection. He's very solid all the way around. Can run inside or outside. Great receiver, pass protector, like just extremely solid player. I'm going to put him at 36 with Miami, which is great because I was considering him at 18 anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I took the easy route when I ranked running backs. I basically called it 1A, 1B, 1C from Najee down to Javonte Williams. Just a bunch of really good backs. And I rant about this in a video I'm uploading tonight, probably, as we record this. I absolutely love Michael Carter. And I think why take a running back in round 1 when you can maybe take Michael Carter in round 3 or at the tail end of round 2? I love him. But Najee at 36, I think, makes a lot of sense for a team that needs to help out Tua in any way possible to see if he's your guy the same way that we took Jalen Waddle to see if Daniel Jones is a guy. And there are a bunch of different scenarios for that. But Eagles at 37. Another tough spot. I think I got to go corner, and the storyline just kind of writes itself for me. And that's part of why I'm doing that. But also, it's a good fit. It's a good fit for a team that needs cornerback help in Asante Samuel Jr. Now, why is this a good storyline? I can't quite put my finger on it, but I do think this is a good fit overall. And, there's not much more to it than that. They don't have corners. They don't.
Yeah, he would immediately be probably their best corner. I think as a rookie, like I can't really think of anybody who'd be better than him.
Avonte Maddox has his moments.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
I think the fact that they kept moving him back and forth between corner and safety kind of screwed him a little bit, like development-wise. And also, he plays to his size, where I think Asante plays bigger than his size.
For sure. He moves really well on the outside. I had my doubts when I saw his measurements as an outside corner, and then you watch him and you go, oh, he could get it done. Mm-hmm. So I like him as a player a lot. I think he could go even higher than this.
Phenomenal feet, phenomenal hips. I think Newsome's probably the only guy that has better feet and hips than he does in this class. Really, really good. Cincinnati at 36. Who do we take for them in the first round again? Penei?
Went O-line, went Penei Sewell.
Okay, so...
Which I don't think this stops you from double dipping if you want to do that. But doesn't mean you have to. Doesn't mean you would.
No, I want to get something, that will help Joe Burrow, but also is different than what they have. Because as you mentioned, they've already got T, they've got Tate, they've got Tyler Boyd. Let's get something that can fit as like a wide receiver 4-ish, but not really when you look at role. And let's go Rondale Moore.
Ooh, exciting. That is a big time play waiting to happen, even if his hands are really little. He just doesn't catch the ball routinely. But if he does, it's, you better be watching out because it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a big time play.
Yeah, he's going to immediately be that guy that everybody on defense is looking at, which helps the RPO game, because even if you just threaten the bubble, you're going to have a safety chasing it, which might open up run lanes for Mixon just by default, because if you could just pull one guy out of the box because or at least one guy, leaning the wrong direction because he's just glancing it more on the bubble, on like the backside of an RPO, which like they run a lot there, it helps the offense just from him being on the field, let alone when you actually give him the ball and see what he does in space with it. Like, he doesn't have to be a pure deep threat despite his speed. Like, he can be like a early career Curtis Samuel, how they used him in Carolina.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. He's a really good route runner too. I think that's kind of underrated.
He's a good route runner, yeah.
How good he is with the football. If you think about how Buffalo used John Brown, or how even like the Raiders used Henry Ruggs last year, this is someone that can space out the field, back the safeties up. And for a guy like T. Higgins, that's going to make his job a lot easier. Tyler Boyd in the slot. Rondale Moore just is going to open things up, other than just like making safeties and backers bite down if you do threaten the bubble. I think this is just a really good pick for a team that's on the rise, and this could be the missing piece of that offense. So I'm definitely on board with that. As we get to the Panthers at 39. This is an interesting call. We went with Rashawn Slater at number 8, but the defense just still isn't it for me. So I am going to address defense in some way. And, let's get that Luke Kuechly replacement. And I think that could be Jamin Davis out of Kentucky. Really good cover linebacker. He's getting hyped up a lot near this range. I don't think he's a round 1 player. I think he probably falls somewhere in the round 2 to 3 range. And I think this could be, about maybe as high as I think he should go. And it's just a good fit for a team. And I'm not saying he's Luke Kuechly, obviously. Please don't misconstrue me. But I think he's a guy that could fill that Mike linebacker role. And there are some good ones available. I like Nick Bolton for that too. I like Jabril Cox maybe a little bit farther down the board. And we talked about Cameron McGrone. He's a stud if you look at 2019 and you just ignore his injuries. But Davis is clean, and he's really good, flies all over the field, and is just really instinctual as a nose for the football, and it's extremely valuable at his position.
Yeah, I love Davis. I think he's one of the most fun linebackers to watch in this whole class. I wouldn't be surprised if he does go in round 1. It's got to be like the perfect fit.
Well, I think for the same reason that Jordan Brooks goes round 1, Jamin Davis could.
In the sense of just like athletic upside?
Yeah. I mean, like at Texas Tech, they used him, Jordan Brooks, they used him as a spy in his last season. But the season before that, they used him in a similar role to what Jamin Davis is doing last year. So if you're going to buy on the upside, which is what the Seahawks did, it certainly makes sense for him to sneak in. But
and he
I
had
think
a
this is a sweet spot.
pretty good rookie year too, all things considered. Like,
Jordan Brooks was good.
He looked
Jordan Brooks was good. It was a little surprising. I didn't see his non-spy tape when I watched him. I didn't go back to 2 years ago, which was a mistake. So when Jordan Brooks got called on draft night, I go, what are the Seahawks doing?
The main thing I was annoyed is I was like, Patrick Queen is right there, guys.
Yeah, I love Patrick Queen. Love Patrick Queen.
So Denver at 40. Who did we take for them already?
Denver was Mac Jones.
Okay. Well, they don't really need anything on offense. Like, they're good skill position wise. Offensive line could probably use tackle help, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just depends on Juwan James. They got Garrett Bowles at left tackle. He broke out. He's a stud now.
Yeah, I'm not really feeling Eichenberg. Oh, man, I loved Cushenberry, too, coming out. So he's probably going to be their center for them.
Mm-hmm.
Defensive line, I think, is good. You got Shelby Harris, Shamar Stephen, Draymond Jones. They just drafted a game last year. Purcell's, I think, a really good one-tech. Linebacker could be interesting. Give me Zaven Collins.
Yeah, I think he's a perfect player to take a shot at. I think I'd use him in a Malik Reed type role as well.
Well, also, you look at Vic Fangio's track record as a linebacker coach. He is literally the best linebacker coach in the history of the sport. If anybody can get the best out of Zaven Collins, it's Vic Fangio.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, he's worked with Danny Trevathan, who's one of the most, I don't want to say one of the most underrated linebackers of the 2010s, but he wasn't given nearly enough credit for being a good player.
I mean, it's Ray Lewis. It's
everyone knows Ray Lewis, you know.
But both of the 49ers linebackers in the early 2010s, back in that, crushing Fangio defense from the early 2010s with the Niners, he worked with both of them.
Owen Willis, Ahmad Brooks was on the edge as
the Saints
guy.
The Saints, when they sent 4 linebackers to the Pro Bowl in 1 year, that was him. He was the linebacker coach.
Yeah, Fangio's a stud.
He's amazing.
If anyone's going to retrain Zaven Collins' eyes as a linebacker, it would be him.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. Lions at 41 went tackle already for them. Tevin Jenkins at 15 after a trade down. I think this is a spot where we maybe take a receiver. And I'm going to go Tylan Wallace. I love Tylan Wallace. Yeah, he doesn't maybe have the burst and the explosiveness that you love at receiver. And I think Kadarius Toney's a really good player. But I think Tylan Wallace has big-time upside. I'm not sure if he's a receiver 1. I think he's a really good receiver 2, though. He's got good route running, really fluid. And what really stands out to Tylan Wallace is the body control and the hands. He'll try to make a spectacular catch every now and again when he probably doesn't have to. He could do a little bit more at the top of the route to create a little bit more separation. But even if he's not stacking guys routinely, he doesn't have to be that player. I love Tylan Wallace, and I think, for a team that really could use an upgrade at receiver, long term, Tylan Wallace is that guy to me. And if you were going to tell me I was going to take Tylan Wallace over Kadarius Toney at any point in this mock draft, I would have called you a liar, but here we are, and I just think he's a better fit for the Lions long term. Even if Kadarius Toney's a spectacular player, don't get me wrong, but I like Wallace for the Lions.
So I have nothing against Nick Gates, but give me Creed Humphrey at 42 for the Giants.
Yeah,
I love Creed Humphrey. I think he is as solid a center prospect as they come. I think he's a day one starter and honestly a starter for the next several years. Top tier zone run blocking center, both outside zone and inside zone. Just phenomenal use of leverage and balance, and like he's a wrestling background. He started wrestling when he was 4.
I do know.
So
this.
he's very hard to uproot, very hard to get on the ground. Like he handles dudes that are way bigger than him, just because of that wrestling background. Like he's just a damn good center.
Yeah, I like Creed Humphrey. I think the difference for me between Landon Dickerson and Creed Humphrey is Landon could play guard. I don't really like Creed Humphrey too much at guard. I think Landon Dickerson's a little bit meaner, obviously bigger, but Humphrey is just solid. I think Dickerson's got the higher ceiling, but if you're, factoring the injury, I can completely buy that. It's not like Creed Humphrey is significantly worse than Landon Dickerson. They're just different type of players at the same position to me. But at 43, and we got the Niners.
Oh, the injury for Dickerson too is
the injury's big. I can totally jump on board for that. I might take Landon Dickerson now for the Niners. That offensive line could use some help, but also like cornerback is particularly weak for them with Sherman, gone, and as great as Jason Verrett was last year. I mean, when's the last time Jason Verrett played more than 10 games in a season, and that's at the top of it. Like he plays significantly less than that usually, and that's tough because he was so good coming out of TCU. But I think cornerback is a position we definitely need to look at least. Ooh, I like Elijah Molden at this spot because you don't really even have to play him at corner either. You could play him; he's a slot or safety, and that could be a really good fit. Like what Jimmy Ward, what they wanted him to be able to do. They still have Jimmy Ward, but I think Molden is a long-term upside at the position. Even if he's not a boundary guy, I like Elijah Molden a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, Dallas at 44.
Yeah, I wish I was making this pick because I know what I would take, but I don't want to influence you.
Okay, so you got DeMarcus Lawrence, Neville Gallimore, who I was super high on at defensive line. Tristan Hills. They do need another defensive end, unless you are super into Dorrance Armstrong or Brent Urban.
Look, gotta love Dorrance Armstrong Jr., Kansas monster, destroying the Big 12, MVP in the future. Watch out.
Linebacker is fine, but considering how much money they're spending on it, it's not efficient. Secondary, I just took J.C. Horn. You still got Lewis. They took Diggs last year. They signed Keanu Neal as a mercenary, but I think they might put him at linebacker. I remember reading something about him playing will for them.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily sure if he's actually going to be a safety for them. So it might just be Donovan Wilson and nobody else at safety. They did get DeMonte KZ too.
Wow.
And then show me safety.
There's some good ones available. There's some really good ones available. It's every safety not named Trayvon Merrick, and I think that two of these guys have first-round potential. I know you love Jamar Johnson, but I think Javon Holland has round 1 potential. I think Richie Grant has round 1 potential.
From athleticism standpoint, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and then like Grant is like versatile. Javon Holland's versatile. I mean, Jamar Johnson is too, though. He's just a different type of versatile. You're not going to use him in the same way.
And the thing with Dan Quinn is he needs, it's like very defined roles at safety in that defense. Like you've got a free and you've got a strong. Like sometimes they'll rotate, but most of the time, like here's my free, here's my strong. And I'm not super into who they have at free safety right now. So give me Javon Holland to be their free safety. I like that.
And I'm people are gonna clown me for this off the rip here, but don't blow this out of proportion. But the guy closest to Earl Thomas is Javon Holland, and we know what he could do in Dan Quinn's defense in Seattle. So I think Holland's just a really good fit, and they're gonna find a way to use him. And you put out a tweet about it that was perfect. Is that if there's a guy that you can project as a center fielder, like an over the top free safety right away, it's Javon Holland. Yeah. And I like that a lot. What do we do here for Jacksonville? Cam Robinson's playing under the franchise tag, which was the most peculiar thing of all time. I can't believe that they did that. But he might not be there after next year. This is the spot where we could consider taking offensive tackle. Stone Forsythe is getting a lot of hype of late. He's a pretty good player. James Hudson is solid. So I'm thinking about offensive tackle. I don't really want to go receiver. I like who they have, honestly. I mean, you can work all the way down to Colin Johnson and find players that are going to play roles. Like Laviska Shenault's your slot /Z/ wildcat, whatever.
/ running back.
They brought in Marvin Jones, who I like Marvin Jones a lot, even if he's a bit older. And that doesn't even mention DJ Chark, who's a great deep threat, and then Colin Johnson, your big jump ball receiver. They've got players at receiver. I don't think we need to go receiver here. I mean, Kaylavon Chason was so bad last year.
Well, he's out of position. They keep insisting he's a defensive end, and he's not. Yeah. He's a linebacker.
I agree with
and
you there.
they need to accept that. He is a Sam linebacker. Can be a great Sam linebacker. He can be like a Kyle Van Noy, but like with a jet engine strapped to his back. But they're not playing him that way.
Ooh.
And it's their own fault.
I see two pretty clear options if you're looking for a 4-3 defensive end. Ronnie Perkins and Boogie Basham. And I think Ronnie Perkins is pretty good value at 45, honestly. And you could start him right away on the opposite side of Josh Allen, and I think be pretty happy with that. Good run defender, pretty good pass rusher as well. To me, he's like the jack of all trades, master of none type, but that's like almost seemed disrespectful. But like he's just a really, really good player, high floor player as well. And Jacksonville needs more good players. So I mean, why not Ronnie Perkins at 45?
Yeah. Oh man, this is okay, so I'm not really sure what system Aaron Glenn is going to put in with Detroit here. So it
could just be a BPA spot.
Yeah,
linebacker's super weak. They lost Jared Davis, who's bad. They don't have Taki. They have Jelani Tavai, who's kind of whatever.
Jalen Reeves-Maybin. And still got Jamie Collins.
Jamie Collins is the best linebacker on that team, probably by a mile.
Yeah,
and he's, 30, 31? He's not young anymore. No spring chicken.
So, oh, man. Okay, still got Aquara. Still got...
both of them.
Brockers and...
Michael Brockers is no good anymore. He lost too much weight. He's not the player he used to be. He's shredded. I mean, he looks great, but he can't play 3 or 5 tech, or even he was a nose tackle for a while too.
It's one of those things where it's like I'm like paralyzed by how many different needs they have. Specifically on defense, because like they built their personnel around like Matt Patricia running a Belichick style defense, but their Belichick style defense was just terrible, and so now they're just left with a whole bunch of terrible players that like just don't fit. So it's like, man, this is tough.
Like Jeff Okudah, if he's not in press man, you don't really have much of a player there, honestly. Well, no disrespect intended to Jeff Okudah, but I think we saw last year at least when he was, and cornerback's a tough position to transition into, but I think he's a press man corner.
I don't think they need a corner because they also got Quentin Dunbar, Amani Oruwariye. Like I think they're fine.
Yeah, I like Oruwariye quite a bit. I'm just saying, like when you're talking about like the Belichick defense, that's synonymous with man coverage.
Oh yeah. Safety, I like Tracy Walker at free safety.
Agreed.
So I think they're okay there. Man, show me linebackers. Oh man, that's tough. Like I so want to go Cam McGrone. I so want to go Cam McGrone. Like I know it's early, but I really do. Show me offensive line.
Interior.
So you got Dickerson or... I'm not really feeling that either. Because they already got... Like, they don't need center. They got Frank Ragnow. Fuck it. Cam McGrone.
I mean, he arguably has the highest upside of any linebacker available. You're getting a day one starter if he's healthy, and he was a beast at Michigan in 2019. I don't hate it. Keep him in state.
Yeah, I had nowhere else to run. It was either him or Pete Werner.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind that. I definitely don't. And then the Chargers at 47. We got to upgrade that secondary. Got to do it. Lost Rayshon Jenkins. I'm not ready to give up on Nasir Adderley yet. I think if he stays healthy, maybe you got something there. And obviously, if Derwin James stays healthy, safety really shouldn't be a big concern. So I'm looking at cornerback, and who do we want to play corner on this team?
Adebo.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the, new defense with Staley, right?
Yeah. Because like when I look at their corner depth chart, so you want somebody who can play off, who can jump routes like crazy in the mold of a Kyle Fuller.
What's their cornerback depth chart look like right now? I know Casey Hayward's old, and
well, Hayward's gone. You got Chris
is he?
Harris at nickel, and then outside you got Tavon Campbell and Michael Davis. So
they brought back Michael Davis. He's okay, actually. He's not good, but they need a corner horrifically badly. It's not even the right adjective.
So depending on who you like better, because it's mostly zone for them.
Yeah,
depending
so
on who
I'm
you like
thinking
better.
Joseph Adebo, and
Yeah.
that's kind of it, actually. I think teams would likely buy high on the upside of a length guy like Kelvin Joseph, and I think he's younger as well. So we're going to play the upside with Kelvin Joseph. I think he and Adebo are good fits for zone-heavy corners, but we're gonna buy high on the length. I like Kelvin Joseph a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so Raiders, I really want to go Dickerson, but like they seem convinced that Andre James is their center of the future, so I don't think they would do it. And then you brought back Incognito, Denzel Goods at right guard. Like they really more need tackle or anything like that, but there's not really a tackle right now that I want because I took them all in round one.
Yeah.
Man, edge could use something because like Max Crosby's good. Carl Nassib is fine. You got Furl and Key. Like you got a bunch
Furl
of
took a
contributors.
step last year, to be fair to him.
He did, but it's still not. Could have took Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Could have took Josh Allen. They signed Solomon Thomas to be a 3-tech for them, which honestly should have been his position the entire time. The Quentin Jefferson signing, super underrated. I like him. Oh, that's right. They have Yannick too. I forgot about that. But they have him listed as Sam. Yeah, they have him listed as Sam linebacker for some reason when he's an edge.
Is that on the Raiders depth chart, or just like some like Our Lads or something? Or
It's
ESPN?
Our Lads. Our Lads doesn't really know where to put people sometimes, so they just throw them in random spots. So corner, you got Arnett, Robertson, Mullen. I think you're all right there.
I've got safety loaded up if you want to check out some of these names.
Yeah, safety's still an issue.
Yeah, it's tough. But they have Eric Harris out there for too many snaps last year.
Yeah. Give me Tyree Gillespie.
Ooh. Interesting.
I'm very big on Tyree Gillespie. Amazing athlete. Very good in coverage. Super physical in run support. Very, very, very underrated safety. Like, he's one of the only safeties that on his resume has, like, goal line stops against Najee Harris and PBUs against Devonta Smith and PBUs against Kyle Pitts. Like, he's going up against all these future Pro Bowlers and beating them. And he's still seen as like a day 3 guy. And I'm like, are you insane? Like a safety with
definitely
that.
a little late.
Yeah, safety with that physical profile that runs 4.4 and jumps like 37 inches and, you know, is getting PBUs against Kyle Pitts. Like, he was matched up against Kyle Pitts most of the game and allowed like 1 catch for 8 yards. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I like Gillespie. I think he's not quite the player that Richie Grant is, and I'm just really high on Richie Grant. But Gillespie's a good player. Don't hate it. Cardinals at 49, though. We went corner earlier. Went with Pat Surtain. That's pretty good value. Looking back on it, that's pretty good value.
Yeah.
Lost Dan Arnold, who was your best tight end last year, but I think Brevin Jordan's the best tight end available. Maybe even Hunter Long. I like Trey McKitty and Kenny Boa, but they're not going to go until maybe early day 3. Or like, you know, maybe, I don't know, late round 3 best case scenario for them. They're developmental guys. I don't really like any of these guys to replace Dan Arnold. Not that Dan Arnold's anything special, you know, but like Brevin Jordan tested so badly. Like we talked about the RAS, relative athletic score. Brevin Jordan's was really bad, but I like him as a player, which it's tough. but I also don't know if I like him for this team. I view him as like an H-back, and I don't know if that's the best fit for Arizona at 49. Running back, they brought in James Conner on one of your. Oh man, Travis Etienne's still available. I'm gonna go Travis Etienne. Snap pick. They brought in James Conner on a 1-year deal worth no money. Like, I think Etienne's just probably too good to pass up at 49. So I gotta do it. Gotta do it.
Oh man. Here I am again, faced with the Miami Dolphins and a loaded roster.
Don't know what to do.
and no real needs. No real needs except one. Backup quarterback. That could potentially be starting quarterback.
Okay.
Give me Kellen Mond at pick 50.
Oh, you're rude. I was looking at him down the board.
I know you were.
I like Kellen Mond a lot. Like, yeah, he's not perfect. He's not a day one starter, but neither's Trey Lance. Not saying that Kellen Mond's the player Trey Lance could be, but for the same reason you like a guy like Trey Lance, you probably should like Kellen Mond as well. Played really well against Alabama. Who does that? Not many.
I don't. Again, people say like, well, you got to give Tua a chance to develop. I did. We got Sam Cosmi, Jamar Chase, and Najee Harris. If he's still not good, I got another guy I can throw in there. You know, so it's like we're supporting Tua and also threatening his job at the same time, which I think is a good balance between encouragement and giving the whip a little bit.
Also, Tua gets hurt, as sometimes he does. Maybe Kellen Mond comes in, plays well, and you trade him for the second-round pick. You get your return back.
Yeah, I mean, Fitzpatrick isn't there anymore, so who else are you going to put in the game when you're down by 2 scores because you don't want to put in Tua?
It's a good point. I think I go edge there. I like to load up on edge rushers. I think it's just so important. Keep those guys fresh. But Mond, I mean, that's an interesting one. WFT at 51 went linebacker earlier. Took Micah Parsons. That's right. Ugh. I mean, yay. We had a great player. This is a tough one because, like, I thought we took JOK for a second. I'm like, kind of linebacker and safety crossed off. But I would be tempted to double dip on linebackers at this point. But I think Landon Dickerson is just too good to pass up at this spot for, taking a chance at a guy with injury history, but can be an instant starter skill-wise. And at 51 for a weaker offensive line, even if they believe in some of those guys, I think Dickerson's just really good value for that team.
Yeah, I agree. He's just such a good player. Like, nobody out there disagrees that Landon Dickerson's a good player. I've never seen anybody have a bad tape evaluation of him. Like, everybody loves him. He's great. So for Tennessee here, oh no, I'm Chicago at 52.
Chicago.
Okay, so I already took Terrace Marshall. That was my round 1 pick. So let me pull up. Yeah, between A-Rob, Terrace Marshall, Darnell Mooney, I think I'm fine at receiver.
This would have been a Kellen Mond spot, but you went ahead and took him to Miami.
This would have been a Kellen Mond spot for sure. And I know my podcast partner EJ is going to hate that I took him away from the Bears because he loves Kellen Mond. Could be a tackle spot.
Yeah, they're pretty weak at that spot. Bobby Massey's not a starting caliber right tackle anymore. Charles Leno is okay.
So I want to take somebody who has a similar play style to Kyle Fuller that can immediately slide in there. Like they signed Desmond Trufant, but I honestly don't really care. Like I think this kid could potentially outplay Desmond Trufant at this point in Trufant's career. Like Trufant was great early in his career. It's kind of tailed off since then. Give me Paulson Adebo here at 52.
Yeah, already had my clicker on it. My clicker, what am I, 90? I had my mouse on it. Yeah, just makes a lot of sense. Man, I can't believe this is available, but watch this. All Kadarius Toney. I mean, could you think
Perfect
of a better fit? Slot beast. Also, one of the better route runners in the class. Kadarius Toney moves unlike anybody else, pretty much. And he also plays fairly big. You think he's probably like a 5'8 guy with the way he moves, but he's 5'11. Does kind of remind me of Santonio Holmes. I saw that comp thrown out months ago, and I go, that kind of makes sense. I think Toney is maybe a little bit worse of a true receiver, but better with the ball in his hands than Santonio Holmes was. But I love Toney. And the fact that he slips to 53 is borderline mind-boggling, honestly.
I usually snap my knees just watching his highlights. It's insane. I don't know how his tendon
viciously hard plants.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, I hate to say it, one of the times where he straightens out that leg, someone's going to fall into it, and that's going to be bad news. But I hope that never happens. He's too fun to watch. I need him to stay healthy forever.
Who did we take for the Colts in round 1 again?
Went corner. I think Greg Newsome.
Was it Newsome? Yeah, it was. Okay,
Yeah,
so don't need corner. You know, I kind of like Eichenberg here. Let's go Liam Eichenberg.
I think he's someone we probably would have considered for the Colts in round 1 just because of need and based on the board. So I think this is great value for a solid tackle. He's not the meanest. He's not the strongest. He's not the most athletic. He's just solid.
He's better than Sam Tebby. that's his best quality for me.
I mean, he started for the Chargers last year, right?
Yeah. Started.
Yeah. Pittsburgh at 55. Man, we really wish Landon Dickerson was available. Took tackle in round 1. And as much as you still got big needs, I think cornerback's huge. Lost big-time cornerbacks. Aaron Robinson kind of feels like a Mike Hilton replacement in some ways. Play slot corner. I just think Javonte Williams is kind of a luxury pick. He's still available at 55. Probably didn't think that was going to happen. So I'm going Javonte Williams at 55 for the Steelers fans that want a running back more than anything. I won't give you one in round 1, but thankfully Brett went Brady Christensen, so we could go Javonte Williams at 55.
I mean, some Steelers fans want Javonte Williams in round 1, so this is perfect for them.
Really good player. Really good player. Just built like a tank. His contact balance is ridiculous. Love Javonte Williams. This running back class is underrated too. This is just a really stacked draft class in general. It's hard not to find studs at every position far down the board. I mean, I like Jamar Jefferson. And, I mean, you could make an argument that there are 5-6 running backs that are definitely better than he is. I like, people love Jarrett Patterson. I like Javian Hawkins as, like, a gadget-type player. There are some players that are going under the radar that are going to be big-time players in their careers. It's fun to think about.
For Seattle, can you show me tackle?
Sure can.
All right, I want... Man, I'm between Hainsey and James here. I don't necessarily need to take him right now, though. Okay. Man, all right. They did get Kerry Hyder.
Good rotational edge.
There's talk that they're going to bring in, what's his face from Dallas, Alton Smith.
He was pretty good last year in a weird role. He bulked up big time. He was playing at like 280 plus.
He was inside and outside, which, I mean, 280 with 35-inch arms, you could do a lot with that.
That plays.
Like, they just got a whole bunch of different edge guys. They have like 8 of them, so they don't necessarily need that. It's like pass rush by committee for them. Linebacker's fine. Secondary isn't terrible, but losing Dunbar definitely hurts. Show me corner.
Some decent options available.
Yeah.
None that are like particularly jumping out for the Seahawks need. I think St. Juice, because of the size, is something that the Seahawks might like, but
I definitely would have considered Adebo if he was on the board, but I already took him.
He would have been a perfect fit.
He would have been a perfect
nice little
fit.
covered 3. action going on. It's a tough spot for you, honestly.
Super
First pick of the
tough
draft.
spot.
I know who
Alright.
I would take because in my video I say I did one player every team should take, and the player that I think the Seahawks should take is still available, whether it's round 2 or 3.
Who was that?
Quinn Miners.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, I mean I don't love.
I
their
do like
interior.
that. I do like that. Yeah, he would be better than Posick. Let's go with Quinn Miners.
All right.
That's
And
a
that
good
brings
one.
up the Rams at 57. First pick of the draft for them. Could be offensive line easily. But as I talked about in the video that's going to be posted today as I record this, losing Troy Hill was kind of a big loss. Losing John Johnson was a major loss. So I want Elijah Molden to be available, but I took him already. So is there anyone that could fill that role? Maybe Richie Grant. Maybe Aaron Robinson. I think the 2 UCF guys fit pretty well. I don't love any of the tackles at this spot, honestly. I just don't. I know some guys are high on Jackson Carman. I don't particularly love him. Jalen Mayfield, I don't love. Also, not an incredible athlete. You project him more as a guard. I can get behind that. Leatherwood is okay. He doesn't particularly stand out. He got bullied by Quincy Roche at the Senior Bowl. I don't know. This is a tough spot.
So, just one thing on Jackson Carman.
Mm-hmm.
For 2020 specifically, only pay attention to the first 4 games.
Oh, yeah?
Only the first 4. Every other game after that, he was playing through some stuff.
Okay.
Only first 4.
First 4. Interesting. I kind of want to keep that defense as good as possible. And I'm going to go Richie Grant. Richie Grant's another guy who I definitely like a lot on tape as just a true safety. But then from what I saw at Mobile, when he's in man coverage against some of these twitchy receivers and can hang with them, it shows that Richie Grant, to me, can definitely play slot corner as well. And did that a little bit. But extremely sparingly, though, at UCF because they had Aaron Robinson doing that full time. But I like Richie Grant a lot. I think it's just a solid fit, and they're going to find a way to use him. And whether it's a Troy Hill replacement, I'm not sure, but could be that John Johnson replacement.
Yeah, I could see that.
Jamar Johnson kind of seems like John Johnson in a lot of ways, but it's a better athlete.
And not just for name either.
Yeah. Play style, not the fastest guy in the world.
So
Baltimore went receiver, went with Rashad Bateman at 27.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at. So Chuck Clark is literally on basically a 1-year deal when you look at guarantees.
I love Deshaun
really-
Elliott, but you need more than that.
I really like Jamar Johnson, and he's such a Raven play style wise. And none of their safeties are they're not locked into any of them long term, technically. Chuck Clark's a good player.
You better mention Deshaun Elliott here in the next 5 seconds before I lose it.
They're both
Texas
good.
Longhorn disrespect.
They're both good.
Yeah, if he can stay healthy, which has been a
but
problem. His contract expires. in the
If
next
they
2
need
years.
money, in the future, safety's going to be the first place they go to on this depth chart because, how their contracts are structured, they can get out of them pretty easily after this year. So if they need money, safety's going to be the piggy bank. So if you get a guy like Jamar Johnson who's going to be dirt cheap for the next 4 years, who's also a really good player, and he plays exactly their style, I think they would maximize him, and I think he could even potentially outperform a guy like Chuck Clark, who's really good. Not saying he will, but I think he's that kind of guy.
Also, with the current safety depth chart, you're not forced to even play him at safety and start him right away. He's a guy that can just rotate in dime or
and they'll
whatever.
They'll play
him in the box.
They'll play 3 safeties on the field all the time. So it's not like he won't get snaps. He'll get snaps. Give me Jamar Johnson. He's just BPA for me.
Went Kwity Paye earlier. What do we have at linebacker? I mean, in my video, I keep referencing it now. I had Baron Browning as a fit for the Browns, and I think round 2, round 3 might be the sweet spot, taking a shot at a high upside player. They're particularly weak at linebacker. I know they brought in Anthony Walker, but Baron Browning's not going to be a Mike linebacker. Depending on how you feel about Jacob Phillips, I think that Baron Browning is a really good addition to this linebacking core. Just taking a good athlete that you can rotate in could eventually earn a starting job potentially. I think Baron Browning is just a good fit for this team. So, and linebacker was weak for them. If you take a high upside athletic player that has shown he can do some different things at a high level, sometimes, I think it's worth taking the shot. So keep Baron Browning in-state, last name fit, but also it's a schematic fit for me.
Show me defensive tackle real quick. Oh, Levi. Levi for the Saints. Easy.
That's your Sheldon Rankins replacement.
Yeah, they've lost some guys on the interior because of cap casualties. Levi can come in day one.
Is David Onyemata gone now?
I
can't remember if he's gone or not.
He might be the only one left. Let me look. Because Malcolm Brown's gone. Sheldon's gone. Let's see here. Yeah, their starters right now projected are Onyemata and Shai Tuttle. So
that's poor. That's poor.
So Levi could potentially start over either of them, to be honest.
Yeah, I was considering D-tackle. I might have gone Davion Nixon to the Browns. I like Nixon a lot. Another guy who's, like Onzarike, offers some pass rush chops from the interior. Nixon's a really good player. And I'm considering him for the Bills at 61, who could use that type of a player on the inside. They've got some guys that are good at stopping the run, standing guys up, playing like more of a nose role. But Davion Nixon as a 3-tech, I think, is kind of a really good fit. But also, I want to look at corner. Aaron Robinson's a good fit as well. I like Benjamin St-Juste. I think he's also a good fit, but he's going to be more of a boundary guy where Robinson would maybe even play the nickel. They're not too strong at corner. It's really just Tre'Davious White.
Yeah, you could take either nickel or boundary and be fine here.
Yeah, I think I will. I think I'm going to go Aaron Robinson, who I think could also be a boundary guy. I think we've seen him, almost exclusively in the nickel, but as a guy that can press, why not play him on the outside? So maybe they develop him in that role. I think it's just a good player who's available at this spot.
Well, this is the easiest pick I'm going to make all day. Give me Tamarian Terry, wide receiver, Florida State. Pick 62 to Green Bay. That's going to be a name that a lot of people are going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? He's going to be way down the wide receiver board. Way down. Look, the last one. But we are talking about 6'4", 215. Hit a max speed of, I think it was 23.42, if I remember correctly, which is faster than the top speed that Tyreek Hill has ever hit in his life in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't know if I trust some of those GPS trackings from some of these colleges, but he definitely has deep speed.
He's legit speed. Better route runner than he's going to be given credit for. Good hands. The problem is he was playing through injuries in 2020, so his production fell off a cliff. But remember, you go back to the C.J. Henderson tape in 2019, he was kicking the hell out of C.J. Henderson, who was a first-round corner. C.J. Henderson could not cover him. And he put up a bunch of numbers on a bad Florida State offense. He was one of their only good players on offense that year. Very, very underrated wide receiver who's going to go a lot earlier than people think. Way earlier than people think, because it's hard to find somebody with that frame, that size, that kind of route running ability, hands, all of it. He's going to come in and immediately compete with Allen Lazard, and on third down, he'll play over Allen Lazard. Lazard's a better blocker, so he'll get first and second down duty, but for shot plays, he'll be quote unquote their new Marquez Valdes-Scantling, yeah. But way better. Yeah. Way better.
His hands are definitely good when he uses them. I wish he would high point the football more. I see so many times where I just wish he would go up and get it. Then he's waiting for it to come down. But definitely really good. Definitely really good. I like a lot of these receivers still available, honestly, and I'm going to take one here. I'm going to take a similar player to Tamarian Terry. I'm going to go Nico Collins. Showed up at the Senior Bowl lighter, more explosive, but is also like his 2019 tape at Michigan was really good. He's a guy that can body people off the line. He can body people at the catch point. Nico Collins, just big, strong, fast hands. I think it's a type of player that the Kansas City Chiefs could really benefit from having, and they don't have a player like this at the moment. Like, yeah, you have Travis Kelce up the middle, and then you have Hardman and Hill, who are just complete speed freaks. And Hill obviously is developed as a true receiver too, with the route running and his ability to actually hold on to the football. But Nico Collins, they just don't have him. And if you have an offense throwing out Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Hardman, and Collins, with basically, it could be like a 4 wide receiver set basically with Kelce playing in the slot. I don't know who's covering those guys. I don't.
It's damn near impossible. Damn near impossible.
And the last pick of the draft for the second round goes to you. Picking for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Super Bowl champions, went edge earlier with Azeez Ojulari. It's another strong roster. What do you do?
They don't need anything. That's what's tough.
Yeah, I think like some of your best interior guys are aging, though. I don't think that Sue's going to stay around forever. Could look for an Ndamukong Suh replacement. Could look for another interior rusher. I mean, like, Davion Nixon's still available, who was so good last year.
So, show me the overall board.
Yeah. Peyton Turner's available, but you don't really need him. That's stuff. He's a good player too.
I do like Peyton Turner. Go back up towards the top.
I love Dwayne Eskridge too. Big Dwayne Eskridge guy. And Chris Godwin, franchise tagged. Scotty Miller could be your second best receiver a year from now, which is sad.
I know who I want. Give me Milton Williams.
Okay, that's your interior guy. That's your your 3 to 5 tech.
He's different kind of because Vea is always going to be, my one technique. He's going to be the dude clogging up. But I want a penetrator. I want a penetrator that could spell all these guys on third down, because Sue, even at his age, is still just playing all these snaps, and Vea's playing all these snaps. Like, I want a guy I can rotate in on passing downs that could just get after it. Milton Williams is that kind of guy.
Milton Williams is interesting for me because, like, he wasn't really getting a ton of hype when I watched him. And you think, oh, this guy's just going to be a raw, great athlete. And then you watch him. He's got a pretty good feel for leverage. He's got really, like, powerful hands. You go, what am I missing then? What am I missing? I think it's just the level of competition that brings him down.
That's really it. Yeah, it's the same thing with, like, Cam Sample. Like, it's just level
I like him a lot. The Tulane guys are both pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cam Sample's good too. He's more of a Milton Williams. I don't really see him as an edge the same way I don't view Milton Williams as an edge.
They're different. Yeah, they're different kind of guys, but like they both, Tulane's not really playing many big schools. So.
Exactly. So this was a very interesting mock draft. But this is why it's fun, because I mean, you're going to do things that I wouldn't do, and I'm going to do things that you wouldn't do. So we get a really nice variation of the madness and the chaos that could ensue on April 29th and beyond. But this was definitely a lot of fun. If you guys are not already subscribed to Brett, his link's going to be in the description. Please check him out. He's going to have his own individual mock draft where you can see him take Justin Fields number 2 overall. And then who knows what he does after that. You're going to have to subscribe and find out. Any closing thoughts?
Tamarian Terry, 3rd overall.
Number
That's
3.
What I'm doing.
Yeah, make the offense more dynamic for sure.
Yeah, they're not trading up for a quarterback. They're trading up for a Florida State receiver that was hurt last year.
I mean, you can't blame the process if they get the result they want.
Well, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And, we'll have to do this again sometime.
Oh, for sure. I appreciate you guys watching. Hit the subscribe button on my channel if you're not subscribed already, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.
Insane, I hit it at the park, bend bones. See me high step to the end zone. My life like a game, Nintendo. Playing with the best, let them know. Get off the track, the train's coming through. Yeah, promise you get in my way, then you best believe I'ma just run over you. Yeah. Papa turn, taking it back to the house. Defensive joke, I'm laughing so loud. Speedbird's good.